Well, hello BookTube. It is Friday and I'm actually going to do a Friday Reads video. Yeah, I know, I'm surprised too. But I'm still on vacation. I've got 3 days left and it was such a beautiful day. I've got the day free and I thought, why not? I have finished 3 books already, so I want to go ahead and tell you about those and what I'm currently reading. So I finished Click, finally. This is one novel by 10 authors. Just to give you a close-up of the authors there. And this is a book I mentioned in a previous tag. It was a book that I'd had on my shelf for quite a long time. It says here, all royalties from the sale of this book will benefit Amnesty International. It came out back in 2007, although I haven't had it quite that long. I bought it at a Friends of the Library sale, and it just sounded really interesting. With multiple stories kind of all linked together in some way, but told by different authors. I wanted to see how that all kind of worked. Although apparently I didn't want to see it that immediately, because like I said, it's been sitting on my shelf for at least a decade. But yeah, our main character here is George Keane. He goes by the nickname G. And he's a very well-known photographer, a photojournalist kind of thing. And he'd travel the world. He'd go to like hotspots where war has taken place or tragedies have taken place, or just viewing the world and photographing in general daily life in other countries and stuff. And when he would come home, he'd meet with his grandchildren, Maggie and Jason, and they would share stories. Became just kind of a cozy familiarity, a routine that they would do, and became something very, very treasured by, particularly Maggie, I would say, more so than Jason. But they would tell a story to their grandfather, and then their grandfather would tell a story of their journey. But as the story begins, the very first story, we find out that George has passed away, and he's left some gifts for his grandchildren. For Jason, he's left the camera and some autographed photos from sports figures and things that he had collected over the years to pass on to Jason. And then for Maggie, he's left her this mysterious kind of box with these little hidden doors within it, and in each one of those there's a shell, a different type of shell, and then there's a note in there. It says throw them back, kind of mysterious. And what we do is then through these stories we follow various characters, mainly Maggie and Jason. Each story begins with a person's name. So like chapter 1 is Maggie, and that'll be a story told like from her perspective. Sometimes it's another character that you haven't quite met yet, but it's maybe somebody from George's past or somebody that Maggie or Jason will encounter. So here's one from Jason. And it was kind of interesting, some of the stories I did like. I like the writing of most of them. This is somebody named Min, so maybe that's somebody that George had met along his journey, and you find out the story of his encounter with these people. And all these stories kind of, like I said, meshed together. My one complaint was like the last 2 stories were really kind of almost futuristic. We end up with stories by Margot Lanigan and Gregory Maguire, kind of fantastical, kind of science fiction-ish. So they almost seemed jarringly different from the others, that they didn't link in and feel complete together. They felt like I was suddenly switching over to a different book. So I didn't quite like those stories as well as the rest of them. They're pretty decent though overall. It was an intriguing book, interesting concept for that alone. I gave it about 3 stars. Next up was an ebook, and I will bring up a picture on here for you. This is the 3rd book in the Cats and Dogs cozy mystery series by Fiona Grace, called Villa in Sicily. And the subtitle, this one, is Vino and Death. And it features our main character, Audrey Smart. She has left her home country in America and moved to Italy, to Sicily specifically, buying up one of these $1 homes that are offered for sale as long as you commit to like rehabbing the house within like the year or so. So you have to show that you are actually making progress towards, fixing up the electrical, the roof, the appearance, everything of the house. And she's also a vet, and so she's kind of, with the help of the community who desperately needs a vet, has also been given another property to run the business on, but that also needs work. So in the beginning of this story, we meet an inspector who's kind of going around touring all these $1 homes, and a lot of them, including her friend Mason, who's another expatriate who's been helping her, and she kind of sees him as like unattainable, you might say, but he's very handsome and very helpful and very nice. And but he's been helping her kind of rehab her place because he has skills that she does not. But this inspector has gone around to all these various homes and kind of like written letters saying, this has to be completed, this has to be completed, and everyone sort of hates this guy, you might say. And when he comes to her place, and he seems rather nice, she's kind of surprised how everybody feels, and she kind of feels sorry for him because he feels so bad about having to write these things. He's literally in tears that she is just, almost unaware of the fact that she is about to get evicted from her own home, you might say, because it's unlivable until she gets some things fixed. She literally has a hole in the second floor that she just kind of put a board over so she wouldn't fall through, till she could get it fixed while she's working on other things on the ground floor. So then he ends up later on at the vet's office, and again, another situation occurs there where she's also having to almost shut down the practice. She can go in there with the animals, but people can't come in. They can't bring their pets in. Whatever's there now, she can take care of, but she has to get another situation taken care of there. And on one of her kind of trips back into the office to look after some animals there, she finds his body on the ground with her letter opener stuck in his back. So things don't look good. Just another really great story. I love the mystery surrounding there. I love the interaction between Audrey and Mason. And there's another man of interest, love interest, kind of, that she's kind of torn between, you might say, but she doesn't know if he's interested in her. And like I said, it's a little bit of a romantic triangle kind of thing going on. But I love what the animals and the characters and just the setting and really love the series. So when I first got the first book, I think I got it free as a free ebook download, which you might still be able to get the first one. I immediately got the second one, read that one, and I waited a little bit. Now I've picked up book 3, and I almost want to just kind of continue on. Are they a bit formulaic? Aren't most like cozy mysteries and things like that? But I like the characters. I really like the setting and everything, and just feeling like you're in Italy, and just the kind of crumbling down buildings and needing repair, and just very well described, and just kind of just puts you right in there. And the food too. There's descriptions of the food that this other man makes for her because he's a chef, and I just really love the series. So I'm really enjoying that one. Next up, let's see. Oh, next up is another ebook. The Cozy of Horror, you might say. I picked up this one. It was an ebook I had gotten. It might have been another free download. I'm not quite sure, because I have quite a few ebooks that I get. Every day I get an email suggesting some things that might be of interest to me, either cozy mysteries or horror books, or even just general literature. And sometimes they're free or very cheap. And I can just kind of click on the link and off to Amazon and download them. So I have quite a few ebooks that I've kind of accumulated. I'm kind of reading my way through them. And this particular one is by an author I had heard of by the name of Jack Lewis. And this is The Haunting of Gothorpe House. Okay, and this one features Scarlett Gothorpe at the beginning of the story. She's playing around with her little sister Jane. They live in quite a big manor, Gothorpe House, and there's servants and things like that and everything. And there's a tragedy that takes place. That she is then sent away. She's kind of blamed for, but she's not just sent away for that. She's sent away because at 16, she's pregnant, and her parents kind of kick her out of the house. So she, along with her boyfriend at the time, Trevor, luckily he sticks by her and they go off, but it's a struggle. There's like a decade later, they're living out of the car. He's struggling to find work. They're really on their last leg, and like a lot of these, they're very, I'd have to say, kind of formulaic. I sometimes don't mind that, though. There's the typical, okay, family down on their luck, financially, and suddenly there's this windfall. Somebody dies in the family, in this case, her father, and they inherit the home. And, okay, suddenly they have a place to live, but they still can't leave because they don't have the money yet to go anywhere else. They just have this home that they have to fix up before they can even sell, or there's some things in the house maybe that they can sell. That kind of thing. You see that in a lot of these types of books. But there were some really interesting kind of, it had the creep factor. There were some times where I was getting some chills, situations that were taking place within the house, as things start to happen or manifest or whatever. It's a creepy house. There's a mysterious door that she was never allowed to go near, and something happened there at one time when she was a kid, and so she doesn't want her daughter going anywhere near there. She has a daughter named Ruby at this point. And so yeah, they're kind of stuck. They can't leave. But there were some, as much as it had everything I kind of look for in a haunted house, pretty interesting characters, the creepy house, the mysterious things happening. There's some unanswered questions within this book and a very abrupt ending that just wasn't quite satisfying. So yeah, there were some people that when they first show up at the house, there's a pastor and a psychic and two other older women that come into the house, and the one was like a busybody looking at things like, I wonder how much this is worth. I wonder how much this is worth. And like, why didn't they at this point just kick them out? I mean, they weren't invited. They're just kind of nosing around. Why'd they bring a psychic? What's the pastor doing there? None of those characters really well, all but one, none of the other characters ever really resurfaced. So what was the purpose of them being there, including the two busybody old ladies? So I just like unanswered things, kind of like threads that were just left hanging. So overall, I think I just gave this one like 2 stars. But the funny thing is, when I went to put this on my Goodreads, like currently reading, sometimes you can just take a snapshot of either the barcode on the back of the book, or since this is an ebook, I don't have a barcode, you can take a picture of the cover. So when I did that, I went to look it up on Goodreads. Here's the book, right? This one came up. This is The House on the Lake by a Holly Hill Mangan. Notice anything? It's the exact same cover. Just a slightly shifted over there, but yeah. Title, same book. I just thought that was very strange. So anyway. So in terms of what I'm currently reading, I'll start with the ebook. I haven't actually started this one yet. This is another ebook I just have on download. This is Helltown by Jeremy Bates. You can see that kind of ram skull there out in the woods. He does a lot of horror books. I've read quite a few of his. It's been hit or miss. There's been a couple that were just like, too much. I'll just read a little synopsis of this. It just says, since the 1980s, there have been numerous reports of occult activity and other possibly supernatural phenomenon within certain villages and townships of Summit County, Ohio, an area collectively known as Helltown. When a group of out-of-town friends investigating the legends are driven off the road by a mysterious hearse, their night of cheap thrills turns to chills as they begin to die one by one. So yeah, I haven't actually started that one yet. That'll be probably later tonight. Let's see how that one goes. And then in terms of physical books, I'm reading The Day of the Owl by Leonardo Sciascia. This is an Italian novel written back in 1968. It is translated from the Italian by Archibald Colquhoun. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And Arthur Oliver. That's the names right there. I guess I butchered that. But this takes place in Sicily, where the author was from. And it's basically a detective novel. We have a mainlander, Captain Bellotti, who's come from up in Milan to investigate this murder that has taken place of a man named Calesbarno. He's seen in the beginning of the story running to catch a bus, and all of a sudden 2 shots are fired and he's killed. And when the police arrive, suddenly all the people from the bus have disappeared. There was a fritter salesman near the corner. He kind of vanished. No one's seen anything. There's a collective silence, you might say. And what we have is basically a very early mafia novel, although the mafia is never mentioned by name. It says it's a brilliant portrait in this novel of an organization whose very existence virtually no one else at the time was willing to acknowledge. And that's what we have here, this culture of silence. As he's investigating, there's another person that has gone missing, and there's other questions, or people are trying to push him into believing that possibly this other person who's missing maybe have been the murderer, maybe it's a jealous killing, because this other man, Calesbarno, maybe had an affair with his wife, all this stuff. So there's like, he's kind of investigating a missing person whom he already assumes has been killed. So in his mind, he's investigating 2 murders. And it's pretty interesting so far. It's a very, very short novel. There's actually a movie that was made based on the book that you can actually find on YouTube. The entire movie's available there in Italian, subtitled. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. I actually kind of watched the movie, even though I've only halfway through the book. But it's pretty decent so far. I'm enjoying it. I hadn't read anything by this author before, and I'd heard about it, and I kind of wanted to dive into it. But that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna chill out the rest of the day, maybe watch some Flintstones. I've been watching a lot of that in my break. I actually finally finished the first 2 seasons, so I think Pebbles is due sometime in season 3, and maybe we'll get to the actual theme song of the Flintstones, because That didn't kick in right away. I know it's got nothing to do with BookTube, but that's just what I've been doing. So doing a little reading, just enjoying the weather, and like I said, 3 more days off. Hopefully get some more reading done. But yeah, let me know what you guys are reading down below, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.